Good evening, everybody. Hone Tai here, and you are watching the Hone Zone. Today, we are going to be talking about the thought of getting money for your real estate deals. As a disclaimer, the use of this information contained within is at your own risk. Under no circumstance will Hone Tai be liable for any loss or damages caused by the use of this information. I just want to put that out there because, you know, I just try to be entertaining. That's all it is. I'm just trying to share some good, entertaining things so that you guys have something useful to do when you're not watching Netflix. So it's either you're watching Netflix or you're watching me live. But I just wanted to put that out there. Now, if you guys are interested, though, in learning how to become a real estate investor, I'd love to help you. I've been an investor for 9 years. For those who don't know my story, I've been an investor for 9 years. My very first deal was a 6-unit apartment building. And I did that, and I was able to do that because I knew the numbers. That's the hardest part, I think. The hardest part of this whole entire thing is that people don't know their numbers. They don't know how to analyze a deal. And then the whole thought of just getting any money whatsoever for a deal just seems so daunting. It's such a big endeavor. It's overwhelming. And really, it's not that you don't have the money for the deal. It's just that you don't like the thought of having to go get the money. It's the thought that actually stops more people than anything else I've realized. It's not the actual getting of the money. Because to be honest, the money is out there because you've never actually done it before. It seems kind of scary. You don't know what to do next. You're not sure if you're doing things the right way. So you just don't do anything. But there's tons of money out there. There's tons of money out there. And if you guys are watching, I'd love to hear your experience. If you guys are a brand new real estate investor, then chime in. Tell me about what difficulties you guys are running into. If you guys are a seasoned real estate investor already, I'd love to hear about what it is that you guys are doing in your business, how you guys are finding the money to invest in your real estate deals. Also, how maybe the coronavirus has been affecting your business. Lenders have been changing their guidelines in terms of loans for investors during this time. Some have reduced their loan to value. Some people have increased their interest rates. People were saying, they were thinking that interest rates are going to be zero because like the Fed dropped the rates to zero. But the bank saw this as a more risky time. And so what happens is there's the rate that the bank borrows at, and then the bank tacks on a spread. Well, because of the coronavirus, it seems to be more risky from the bank's point of view. So they tacked on a bigger spread, and that bigger spread brings the rate up again. And so though the Fed rate dropped to zero, they tacked on a bigger spread. So that is why your mortgages are not zero, right? But in terms of what you can still do, people are still raising private money. I am friends with a few people who raise money for their deals. I have a friend who's raising $100 million. Okay, say it again. He's raising $100 million because he's got this giant fund that he's going to put to work. He's going to be using the money to buy notes. And when I say notes, some people don't understand what that means. It's like your mortgage would be a note. That's a note between you and the bank. And so sometimes the bank sells these things, and when they sell them, there are buyers. People buy notes, interestingly enough, right? So a lot of people think about real estate investing as just buying buildings. You don't have to buy buildings. You can buy the financing on the building. You can buy the financing on the building as your way of making money. It's a really cool thing. Some people don't know this exists, but let's say you have a mortgage and you haven't been paying on it. And let's say your mortgage was $100,000. You haven't been paying on it. So the bank will say that this is a non-performing note, and they would want to sell that asset off. They're like, we just got to clean up our books. We don't have time to get this note re-performing, meaning getting the borrower to pay on that note again. We don't have time. So what we're going to do is we're going to sell the note, and then somebody else is going to buy it for pennies on the dollar. Now, it might be 40 pennies on the dollar. It might be 50, depending on what it is, right? So this person, they buy it for 40 cents on the dollar, and then they negotiate with the borrower to get them performing again, get them to pay that mortgage again. And how do they do that? Well, they do a number of different things. They refinance it, they stretch out the payments, they reduce the payments, they do like an interest-only payment for a while. Maybe they defer 3 months worth of payments. They do all kinds of things. They readjust the note. And then the borrower's like, okay, fine, I can get back to it. And then they pay it. And then what happens is over time, the borrower might end up in a really good position and they say, you know what, I'm going to refinance this note or I'm going to sell the property. In either case, the person who owns the note gets paid off. So you might have bought it again for 40 cents on the dollar. If the note is worth 100, that means you paid 40,000 for it. If the owner of the property decides to sell the property, the buyer of the property is going to pay off all of the existing liens. So what's the existing lien, 40 or 100? The answer is 100. So all of a sudden, you now got a windfall of $100,000. You bought the note for 40, you got it reperforming, or you didn't, and the person sold the property, and then there was a payoff of $100,000. So you just made $60,000. Stuff like that is happening right now. Stuff like that is happening right now, and you guys don't know that that was even a thing, right? But there's a lot of very successful real estate investors who only focus on investing in notes because they don't want to deal with the construction. They don't want to deal with the toilets and termites and all of that kind of stuff, whatever, right? So now, what if the person doesn't pay on the note? What if they don't pay on the note? Well, at some point, you could either one, sell the note, right? So you bought it for 40. Maybe you can sell the note for 45. Maybe somebody's willing to pay 45 on the non-performing note. Or you can aim to foreclose on the property. So if the note was for 100, there's a possibility that the property is worth 120, let's just say, right? So the property is worth 120. The principal balance, the unpaid principal balance on the note is 100. You paid 40,000 for it. So if you foreclose on it, you could end up with a property that's worth 120 that you paid 40 on. Now you're going to spend some money to foreclose on it, but you see how much room there is right there? That's a lot of room. It's a lot of room for you guys to make a lot of money. But it's all in you understanding what you're getting into. There are people who sell notes like this, and there are people who broker notes like this, and there are people who buy notes like this, people who sell notes like this. There's all of these different things, right? So you guys can get into the business. Now, before you do any of that though, what I labeled this conversation was, it's the thought of getting the money that actually keeps people out of real estate. So it's not actually the money part of the real estate. It's the thought of raising money to invest in real estate. I talk about using private money all of the time. And what that is where you're asking people to borrow money for your deals. You're asking people with money to borrow their money so that you can do your deals. And why would they lend you the money? Number one, they like you. Number two, they trust you. And number three, you're giving them a rate of return on their money. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They're lending you the money so that you can borrow the money, do a deal, and then give them a higher rate of return. So that's what's going on there. And if somebody lends you the money, you got to be a really good steward of their money. You got to treat it better than your own money. If you lose their money, you should be more upset than if you lost your own money. So you got to really take care of these people. But here's what's really cool though. If you do take care of them, they want to lend you more money, right? They want to lend you more money. So never borrow money just for something where you're just like, oh, well, I think this is going to work. You want to be really sure. You want to be really close to guaranteed. There's no such thing as guaranteed, but you really want to treat it better than your own money. Because if you ruin your life, that's one thing. But if you ruin someone else's life, that's a whole different animal. And so don't do that. But if you are in the position where you know what you're doing, if you know how to invest in real estate, if you know how to analyze a deal, if you know all of those things, then totally raise the money if you can offer them a rate of return that's going to be really healthy for them. And this way it's a win-win. You get the money for your deal, you do the deal, you're happy, you pay them back, they get their rate of return, they're happy. The seller of the property sells the property, they're happy, everybody's happy. You see how when you add value and everything works out, that everybody's happy? So don't think of this situation where you're borrowing their money as you're doing them a favor, right? You're doing them I'm sorry, that they're doing you a favor. You're doing them a favor because you're giving them an opportunity to grow their money. Without you, there's no deal. They just sit on their money. And now it's okay to just sit on the money. It's nice, right? But they with you have an opportunity now to grow money, and that's what you get to offer. But you won't do that unless you believe in yourself. If you don't think that you can actually deliver on your promise, then it's going to be a tough thing. It's going to be a tough sell. They're going to look at you and be like, well, you don't seem very confident in the fact that you're going to borrow my money and pay me back. So if you're not confident in you, then I'm not confident in you. So you have to be real confident, but I don't want you to be blindly confident. I don't want you to be confident from nothing. You got to get into the position where you really understand these deals inside and out to the point where you can explain it to anybody. And if you can do that, then you'll be able to raise the money from them. Hey, Holly, we got a comment in here. Hey, Holly, how's it going? So I'm just talking about different ways that people can access money. The thought of accessing money for deals is the thing that gets people out of the game even before they start. Think about it. If you're watching this and you're not yet a real estate investor and you want to be a real estate investor, what's keeping you out of the game? Right now you go, oh, no, I don't have any money. Okay, great. And then I go like this. Okay, fine. Raise the money. And then you're like, raise the money, right? It has nothing to do with your credit. It has nothing to do with your DTI. It has nothing to do with how much money you have, right? So when you say, Hone, I can't become a real estate investor, I don't have the money, I say raise the money. That's where you lose it. Then you go, I don't know what to, right? That's where you lose it. So it's the thought of being a real estate or raising the money. It's the thought of funding that actually gets you out of the game. It's not the funding itself. I want there to be I want you guys to see the difference. People will come and lie to me over and over and say, Hone, I don't have the money. Yes, you don't have the money. So go get it. Go raise it. Hone, I don't have credit. Okay, great. Go raise the money from private investors. A lot of times they don't check your credit. And then now it's like, oh, okay. How come you can't do it? It's the thought of doing it. It's the thought of having that conversation. It's the thought of going to somebody and asking them to raise the money. It's like, oh, I don't know. Right. So I want you guys to be aware of that difference. And then if you guys are interested in learning more about how to raise money, then you can come to a training that I have, because all my trainings are kind of the same, right? It's where I tell you that you just need to raise more money. And this is how you do it. And we have conversations around it, right? It's the knowledge. It's the knowledge it's the knowledge of the money that's going to allow you to be a real estate investor. Let's see. So we got a question. Corey asked, maybe I missed this, but do you consider getting pre-qualified with a hard money lender as raising capital? Yes and no. If a hard money lender is like, yep, we'll give you the loan, then great. Like, if you think about it, I don't care whether you raise private money or not, right? That's really not the name of the game, right? That's not the name of the game. The name of the game is you buying more assets, right? You buying more assets. And if you're interested in buying more assets, then I don't care if you get it through hard money. I don't care if you get it through private money. I don't care if you use bank money or lines of credit or credit cards or seller financing or taking over property subject to or whatever, right? I don't care what your source of financing is. I just want you to get it. It's just the thought of getting the money is what knocks people out of the game. Holly asks, when is your raising private money class? Holly, I don't know. I've been thinking about a lot of different classes, and that might be one of them. Raising private money class, because people are just very confused by the whole idea. They're very, very confused by the whole idea. They're very nervous by the whole idea, and rightfully so. They should be very respectful of other people's money. But again, if you're a good operator, if you have skills, if you have knowledge, if you have access to a deal, like, there's no reason why you shouldn't raise the money. There are rules to raising money that you guys should follow, right? There are rules, uh, but and I'm considering whether I want to get into that or not. There's three different types of money when you're dealing privately, right? There is money that comes from lenders, there's money that comes from partners, and then there's money that comes from investors. Do not use them interchangeably because they are not necessarily one and the same. A lender is somebody who lends money for a fixed rate of return, and they receive a note and a mortgage for that money. A partner receives equity, right? And they're a part owner of the entity, the LLC or whatever it is that you operate out of. So they receive equity. They're not receiving that fixed rate of return. And then investors, they are lending money for, oftentimes it's interest, or it's more equity. It's more equity, but they are a silent partner. So in the second example, right, in the second one, the partner has an active role in the entity. In the third case, for the investors, they are a part of the entity, but they have a passive role. And in order for you to have a passive role, or at least to have partners in your entity that has a passive role, you're going to have to follow SEC laws. SEC, Securities Exchange Commission. And an attorney is going to have to draft up something like a PPM, private placement memorandum, in order for you to raise investor money legally. If you do it wrong, you could potentially get in a lot of trouble. And so there are things that you should know. You should know before you start raising money. But I do say to you guys, if you think that it's the money that's keeping you from becoming a real estate investor, I'm going to call you out on it. I don't actually think that is. I think it's you aren't having the conversations with people to know whether or not you have access to the money or not, right? So that's the big difference. That's the real big difference. We got a comment here. That's nice. Matthew says, Hone, you really know how to break a topic down. Thank you. I appreciate that. I take my education very seriously, and I learn and I learn and I learn. I keep consuming this information. And then once I know it, I apply it in my own life, and then I learn it that way. And then I come on this and I show you guys, right? But again, as always, let me see. Where's it at? It's a disclaimer. All of this stuff that I'm telling you guys, right? All of this stuff that I'm telling you guys, this is just for your entertainment only, okay? This is not instructions. This is not where I'm not giving you advice. I'm not doing anything, okay? I want you to know that this is just for entertainment purposes only. So pretend like you are watching Netflix. That's what this is. This is no different than Netflix, okay? And if you think it's good stuff, great. And yeah, just know that's all it is, okay? That's my little asterisk. Okay, well, let's see. So money. If it's money, if money's your issue, then put together a list of people who potentially have money. People have money in their retirement accounts, in their checking accounts, in their cash value, in their life insurance policies. They have money in the equity of their properties. They have money in lines of credit and credit cards. Lots of people have money in different places in their life. You just have to know what to ask for and how to access it. As an example, there are people who have money in a retirement account. What you can do is you can show them how to self-direct that retirement account. And if you show them how to self-direct that retirement account, then all of a sudden now you have access to the money so that they can lend to you. It's like you got to help people help you. You have to help them lend to you. So it's your job to educate yourself really, really well to the point where you can ask for the money from them and they know how to give it to you. A lot of times, if you ask somebody, hey, I know that you have money in your 401k. Do you think you can lend it to me? They're like, I don't know how. And then they go, do you? And you're like, I don't know how either. And it's like you both are looking at each other. So get really good at learning all of the different places that money is hidden and how to access that money. And if you do that, you all of a sudden have way more access to way more money so you can go do your deals. So I don't want you guys to keep thinking that you don't have money for deals and like that's going to be your hurdle. That's not your hurdle. Your hurdle actually is your thoughts around the money for real estate deals. It's the thoughts that mess with you, not the actual money. So I just want to put out a quick video. That was a 20-minute video. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any questions, feel free to message me and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.